All right, so recording in progress. Here we go. So this is all based on a campaign that we recently ran where we were able to get 500 placements for our clients. So this includes backlinks, brand mentions, all that good stuff. Now, the presentation I gave for Search Engine Journal was talking about brand mentions versus backlinks, which is more important and why. Really, at the end of the day, they are both important in the modern SEO landscape. And if you can get either or both in a campaign, those are going to be really good wins for you and your visibility in AI and organic search. So over 500 backlinks and counting, right? From amazing publications. We got the New York Post to pick it up. We got the Toronto Sun, PsychReg, a bunch of local like radio stations picked up the story. So the campaign, what helped us to accomplish this? It was a project that we did for Easy Contact. So Easy Contact sells eyeglasses, contact lenses, etc. And the main problem that they brought up when we started was like, hey, it's glasses, it's vision. Like, what's so interesting about that that is newsworthy? But what we have to understand is that any topic, any industry that you're in, there are tangential topics that relate to it or in which you can apply your subject matter to that are interesting, people do care about. So eyeglasses actually relates to fashion, which then relates to dating. So how you present yourself, what styles people find attractive, and people are very concerned about dating and their ability to get dates. So that made this a very interesting campaign. So we created this. It was Love at First Sight line, how visual cues influence dating today. Uh, Basically, we found through a survey that we ran that 58% of people said that glasses made someone more attractive, that men are more likely to find glasses attractive than women. And that 58% of people said that eye contact felt more intimate than physical touch. So you'll see here that New York Post article, they picked this up because of that stat. And they, were able to write a story about why Gen Z is weird because they like eye contact more than physical touch. So we had some cool graphics and things like that to kind of illustrate the piece. But ultimately it worked really well. So the first thing that we have to do if we're going to build a successful campaign like this is we have to come up with a topic that is actually newsworthy, right? So the first step is coming up with something that might be newsworthy and you could create headlines for using a survey. The ultimate thing you have to ask yourself is who cares about this? Who is going to write about this and who's going to read this, right? A lot. I just talked to a client yesterday and he's like, my biggest challenge with my digital PR currently at my company is that they want to do digital PR about product features and things like that and studies on their product. And it's like, that's cool for your brand and for your marketing team, but the majority of the public could care less. So you can see here are actually some of the topics that I created for the client just during the sales process. I do this for clients before they even come on board with us, just come up with a few example topics. And you can see some different angles that I was able to come up with, right? Blue light fatigue. So kind of applying it to the workplace. So how remote work is affecting, or how eye strain is affecting remote workers. The health secrets we keep from the people closest to us. Again, talking about health, talking about the workplace. And then, of course, the number one that it came up with was this kind of dating angle. You can see ultimately before we created the piece, we ended up tweaking this, but this ideation process helped me tap into different niches that ultimately led us down that pathway for eyeglasses and dating. So my favorite place to start with this is ChatGPT. I've got an awesome prompt that I've been using for almost a year now. It helps me come up with concepts in seconds. From there, you use your brain to discern what's going to be doable and what might be working. So if you want me to send you this prompt, I have a PDF with the prompt, how it works, how to kind of like coach it, etc. You can send me an email at michael@growresolve.com, just subject line prompt, please. And I'll send you a PDF with that prompt so that you can use that to start generating your own ideas for digital PR within ChatGPT. So feel free to send me that email. Like I said, just mention something about wanting that prompt in your subject line. That way I can get to it quickly and send you that PDF. But hopefully that's helpful for you all. So again, why did this work? We created a piece of content that real people would find interesting. We presented it to journalists who write for these people. Again, it's almost as if it worked because it was actually useful, helpful, or interesting. And again, a lot of that springs from your ability to ideate topics that people care about. And again, ChatGPT is an amazing tool for that. But then from there, you got to start using your own brain. So is link building altruistic? And this is one of my favorite slides I share often. It can be kind of, right? It's the David Beckham meme. I'm here to help people. Be honest. My content is really valuable. Be honest. Okay, I just want links. Thank you. Um, that's what that's really what it comes down to. At the end of the day, you actually have to be doing something that is helping people. Yes, you want the links. Yes, you want the brand mentions. Yes, you're doing this for SEO. But at its core, you need to be doing something that's good for other people. And so everything that you do should be benefiting three parties. One is the user, the person who is reading your article. They're getting introduced to valuable information that they enjoy. Next is the site owner or the journalist, right? This allows them to position themselves as a source for providing valuable information. I think it was Eric Anga who said like a backlink is the one time that somebody is sending somebody away from their website, right? If they're going to send somebody away from their website, it needs to be because what they're sending them to is so valuable that it makes them look good and it makes them look better. So that's why what you're doing here needs to be good for the site owner. And then last, it's good for you. You're getting a good backlink or brand mention that's going to send SEO signals and relevant traffic. So a gut check to ask yourself with any linkable content that you create is number one, who does this apply to, right? Again, think about who am I trying to get in touch with this? Who's actually going to read this? Who's going to be on the other end of it? Why should they care? What unique information does it provide? This is one of the things we're going to talk about here in a minute about surveys and why surveys are so important. You need to think about what is the unique information that I'm providing to the web that they can only get from me. And that's why surveys are so helpful. What problem does this solve? Is my page promotional? I mentioned earlier, if you're trying to do digital PR, just kind of talking about your product and there's nothing really interesting about it, you're probably not gonna have a lot of success. People don't like to give away free advertising. And then the next thing is, how would somebody link to this? Can they mention it in an article? Can they include it in a list? Or can they add it to a resource page, right? So for this digital PR stuff, we're trying to figure out how could this get mentioned in an article? How could an article be written about this information I'm providing? So let's get into it. How can you create and promote these assets to help you get links from these top tier publications? And before we do that, there were a few questions in the chat. Let's make sure we get all these answered. Oh, it's just Bryson saying hi, everybody. Hey, Bryson, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us. Again, if you're just joining us, let us know where you're joining us from. We love to see where our audience is all from. So the first thing you need to know about how to create these pieces is that you need to give them, and by them I mean journalists and readers, what they want. Proprietary data and research is statistically proven to be what they are looking for. I'll have to find it, but I think it was Cision that ran a survey asking journalists what they want from a pitch, and that was like one of the top things they talked about. So again, surveys, reports, meta rankings, or other unique insights for data-driven storytelling. Next is a journalist-friendly format. So again, you need to create something that is compelling story with media hooks that align with journalist interests. So the way you want to think about it is like beats when it comes to like journalists, not like music beats, but the beats that journalists cover, right? So is there an actual beat that regularly gets covered by journalists that my content can fit into? So again, that's where that topic ideation really plays a role, and you want to make sure that aligns with those. And then multimedia, having data visualizations is huge. Interactive charts, expert commentary, video. These are all things that make your piece more linkable and more digestible and helpful to different audiences. So again, like I said, 61% of journalists, according to a 2024 report from Cision, want original research reports. This allows them to write unique stories that engage users. Again, it needs to be newsworthy. And they need to know that your data-driven content is trending in the news and that they'll want to cover it to gain more readers. Again, and who cares? So these are the things you want to talk about. So what should it include? Data-driven insights, exclusive industry reports, surveys, etc., expert commentary, interactive visuals, and ties into a relevant story in the news cycle. Sometimes you can even have a lot of fun with it, and we'll show that here in a minute. So another example of one that we did that worked really well was this piece that we did for Gusto. We used it to get some amazing links. We got Inc.com to pick it up, Tech.co, Investopedia, Forbes, HR Dive, eMarketer, and it was, is AI coming for my job? Again, what we did with this was we applied, with Gusto being in the payroll space and kind of B2B, we talked about something that relates to employment, that talks about the workplace, like, you know, the people that their product is for and how it affects them. And so by talking about AI, we got a lot of tech opportunities. By talking about the workplace, we got some really good kind of Inc.com. And then by talking about mental health, we were able to get other sites like Fox Phoenix to pick it up because it talked about the anxiety that students are facing. So again, by creating a piece that expands your spheres of relevancy for your product, you're going to create all these different opportunities for you to get backlinks. So again, why did this work? There's a concern in tech and business about job security and AI. Google Trends data allowed us for a state-by-state breakdown of where anxiety is highest. That then gives you that local angle. If you can create a piece that has local rankings, that then not only allows you to reach out to journalists that cover certain beats, it also allows you to reach out to journalists that cover certain locations or states or cities. And then the interactive table, really made the piece look legit and easy to digest for journalists. So that's why this piece was so successful here. So again, a lot of it came down to having this proprietary data. We surveyed 1,000 US workers to ask them how they used AI, what their concerns were. It really came down to that survey. So what we're going to spend some time talking about now is how to create a compelling survey. Before we do that, I want to make sure I'm not missing any questions. Oh, how do you find email? Hey, we're going to get into that in a minute, Jewel. And we can definitely help out there. So here we go. Start with the headline, not the questions. So again, before you write a single survey question, imagine what the headline would be if your data revealed something interesting. Ask yourself these questions. If this result were surprising, would a journalist write about it? Would this make someone stop scrolling? And does it tie into a broader conversation or trend? If you're not being able to answer yes to any of these questions, you need to go back and start ideating again and thinking about this again. So an example would be, what percentage of Americans like working remotely? That's too broad and it's already known, right? People hit that a billion times during the COVID pandemic. A better thing would be nearly half of Gen Z employees admit they work from bed every day. That's visual, that's surprising, that's relatable. I'll tell you what, what's their names? New York Post, they love ragging on Gen Z. You're probably going to give yourself a pretty good opportunity there. So having something like that, that is a surprising headline that ultimately relates back to that topic of remote work, but it's more specific. It's, again, more surprising and relatable and visual. So what kind of this comes down to is you need to focus on human stories, not brand stories. Journalists write about people, not companies. So make sure your survey centers around human behaviors, opinions, experiences, not just your product. So there's a few different themes that you can tap into that work pretty well. One is like habits, fears, dreams, or regrets. So this is one that we recently did. It was about regrets that homeowners have with renovations. So 1 in 3 homeowners regret their latest renovation. We were able to get a client who's a contractor that does kitchen remodels in Los Angeles. We're able to get him coverage from Martha Stewart with that article. So again, if you're writing these types of things, you can get yourself coverage and links and brand mentions from sites that you would otherwise have no business getting. Modern life trends. Most parents now use ChatGPT to help with homework. Cultural divides, boomers versus Gen Z on financial priorities. Emotional hooks. Half of pet owners say they go into debt to save their dog. Again, tie these things back into your client's niche only after you find that human angle. Again, getting something that is coverage worthy is the most important part before you start worrying about your brand. Create something that's actually going to have legs, then figure out how you're going to tie that back to your brand. Design for visual storytelling. So think ahead about how the data will look in charts or maps. Visual data is going to be more linkable. It always is. So stuff that it will create a state-by-state map, things that will have pie charts, top 10 lists. Your team should brainstorm these visual formats alongside the questions and think how they'll fit within that article. Again, the 5 kind of concepts that almost always work if you're going to screenshot something. This is a really good one to screenshot. Generational gaps, regional rankings, emotional confessions, tech anxiety, financial behaviors. These are concepts that regularly do well in digital PR that you can tap into and find ways to apply back to your brand. Thank you so much, Taylor, for jumping in with some answers there. Taylor's our digital PR director, so he jumps in and answers questions on here definitely trust what he's saying. He's been at this for a minute now. So what if you don't have a survey? Like again, I strongly recommend it. 95% of the successful campaigns I've ran have had a survey associated with them, but I have run a couple that didn't. And so here's what you can do if you just absolutely don't have the ability to run a survey. You can kind of get a little weird. And if you create something that is interestingly enough or kind of taps into some of those alternative kind of cultural vibes out there, you can find success. So I did one for a client that was what if a AI designed a superhero for each state? So what I did was I had ChatGPT create a backstory for superheroes from each state in America, and they needed to base the superhero's powers and abilities based on things that were in that state or the state's history. And then from there, I had Midjourney create images of what each of those superheroes would look like based on the backstory that ChatGPT created. And then I pitched it out to like radio stations because a lot of radio stations will kind of cover some of those more like weird topics. And I was able to get, I think, like 25 placements with that piece. I had like a radio station in New York pick it up, one in Louisiana, and I think Illinois. And then those got syndicated out across a bunch of different radio stations in those states. So pretty cool one there. And then this other one was one that I did. It was the 10 most Googled monsters in America. So what I found out was what each state's urban legend kind of monster was. So Champy in Lake Champlain in New York, or Sasquatch in Washington, Idaho. We've got a lake monster in one of our lakes, right? So created that, wrote. Then I used Google search data to figure out which monsters got searched the most online, and then we ranked them accordingly. We got some really good coverage on this. We got NBC New York to pick it up, and then again, a bunch of local radio stations ran with this, even like paranormal websites. So the Paracast found this very interesting. They actually scheduled an interview with the author of the piece at the time because they thought this was such interesting information. And so a lot of paranormal podcasts and websites picked it up as well. So in terms of what you'd expect from like a campaign, most campaigns are going to run between 2 to 3 months is usually how long it'll take you to put something like this together. Your first month is going to be a lot of ideation. So you need to come up with your concept idea. It's going to be creating a survey, getting survey questions put together, getting that survey out, getting that data back, interpreting that data, and then using that to craft a piece. And then usually after that, you're going to spend another 30 days pitching this piece. After 30 days, you're going to kind of hit a diminishing return because your data is going to get less fresh. The story is not going to be as new and as intriguing. And so that might be where it's time to restart again. So let's see here before we go to this next section here. How do you go about surveying people for a new campaign? Is there a tool you use? Yes. So Taylor mentioned we use Pollfish. Pollfish is awesome. You can use it to target specific audiences and groups. Like we did one recently that was like silly targeted. Let me pull this one up here. And of course, my browser isn't remembering this one. Let's do this study survey. But it was like, yeah, the true cost of this is one that we did for a client that they wanted one that was like very industry specific and niche specific. So we surveyed 200 professionals working in engineering and operations roles at organizations with an annual revenue of under 500 million, right? Like very niche. Like so you can get pretty dang targeted with that and be pretty successful. Most campaigns I would not recommend getting that specific if you want to have a broad reach, but for what that client needed and what they were trying to do, that's the route we went, and it was able to facilitate that. So yeah, we love Pollfish. We use it all the time. No problem, Ashley. So if you build it, links will come. This ain't Field of Dreams, okay? You got to outreach and promote your piece. So let's talk a little bit about how you can start finding journalists that might be a good fit for you, different techniques and tools that you can use that will allow you to do that. So here we go, subject line. So first of all, when it comes to your outreach, actually, before we do outreach, let's talk about how you can find journalists because I think that's the first step, and then we'll get into the outreach portion. So in terms of how to find journalists, there's a few different ways you can do it. Number one, if you have hundreds or thousands of dollars per month to spend on like a software, there's tools like Muckrack or Prowly that they give you like a database that you can use to tap into, and you can target journalists based on their location, their beat, their journal or whatever publication they write for. There's all kinds of things you can base that on. Muckrack is on the pricer side. I don't think, do they even share their pricing? They don't. Of course they don't. So they don't. I think we use it and it's like 500 a month or something like that. Probably a little bit more. And then Prowly is pretty decent as well. I've used it before and been able to have success, and you can get that one for as little as 369 per month. So if you have a little bit bigger of a budget, you can try something like that out. If you don't, fear not, there are other ways to find journalists. We actually, even though we have access to these softwares, we still do the manual work, and we'll search manually for journalists in specific situations. So what we like to do a lot of the time is we'll use Google News. And Taylor, if I miss this and you want to send me over a Boolean operator to use, let me know. But basically, let's say we want to find something on workplace and wellness. So, we might put in something like, work plus anxiety. And then, and now that I'm trying to do this, I'm totally forgetting how I structure these. I've done these like a billion times before. Survey, study, right? So basically what we're trying to do is like, we're trying to get a piece that covers workplace anxiety, and stuff like that. That is a study in a survey. Yeah, so work plus anxiety, there you go, AI, survey, study. So pretty close. And what we've been able to find here are a few journalists that have written about this topic recently. So we're going to try to find out who's the journalist that wrote this piece. This one's not really showing me much. Let's check out this one. Here we go. Sophie Bethune from the APA, right? We could reach out to her, click this. There's an email for her. We've seen that she's recently written about US workers that have job insecurity causing stress. So this is a way that you can find journalists that have written on the topic recently, and that you can pitch something that's along the same lines. Again, Corey Smith from Fox Baltimore, right? And then you can use a few different ways to try to get their contact info. You can Google them, try to see there's an author page for them where that information is available. You could use hunter.io to find out how people from his organization, how their email addresses are formatted, and you can reverse engineer his email that way. So there's different ways that you can figure that out. But ultimately, what this is going to do is, number one, help you find journalists that write about this topic who you might be relevant to. Number two, it gives you a better way to create a more custom outreach, a more personalized outreach. I can reach out to Corey and I can say, like, hey, Corey, I just read your article about, Aflac's survey talking about burnout and anxiety in the health insurance industry. I'm writing this article currently about XYZ topic. Like, I think it might be of interest to you, based on that. So you can use this to call out their previous work, talk about something you liked about it, start showing that you're a real human that's trying to build a connection, not just somebody who's spamming the web with awful templated emails, right? So that's a really good way to find people and to start building those connections. All right, subject lines 101. Dive into it. So first of all, 76% of writers open an email from someone they don't know based on the subject line alone. So if your subject line is bad, you are going to be looking at about, only a 25% chance of success right off the bat. It's going to cut your opportunity by 3/4. So that's how important your subject lines are. When it comes to subject lines, there's a few different types that we use here at Resolve. The one that we absolutely do not want to use is just throwing the title of your article. The impact of AI on jobs, from side hustles to secret usage. Here you go, right? That's not going to be interesting. It doesn't really, help explain what you're sharing or what you're pitching and why it's interesting. Information gap is a pretty good way to use. You can use this occasionally. So study reveals 66% of employees are self-funding this, right? So you kind of give them a little hook, a little something they need to dive in deeper on. The absolute go-to that you should be mostly focusing on is sharing a statistic from your piece. Again, when you run your surveys, what you want to end up with are headlines, right? I hope I can find it here. There we go. We want to have a list of headlines that are interesting that we can share from this piece. So share those out. 4 in 5 workers use AI daily. 36% say it's essential, right? Share a statistic because that statistic is what is going to be the headline. That's what's going to be interesting. So that's kind of how we usually structure our subject lines and think about things. Again, statistic is your go-to. Information gap, maybe use that to mix things up. Really try to avoid just sharing the title of your article or anything that feels spammy or generic, you know? So yeah, here's a few examples, right? The impact. Wait, what am I doing here? Yeah, it's a messed up slide. Whatever. Next slide. Industry research shows that journalists prefer subject lines that have statistics or data. So again, this isn't just something we're saying. This is something that is backed up by data and research. So only 27% of dog owners are comfortable flying with a dog in cargo, right? That's the headline that these people found the most interesting because it has a statistic in it. The next thing is authority signals. So always use an authority signal, but change it up in test, front loading, back loading these words, and then read the subject line, determine whether it's more valuable in the front or the back, go with your gut. So again, phrases like exclusive, study, poll, new data, showing what is the authority behind the data and the headline that you're providing. Again, journalists need to know that what they're writing about is trustworthy and reliable. And so by using that kind of a phrase in your subject line, that can help to help them understand immediately what is the backing of this headline. Again, exclusives do matter to journalists. Half of journalists aren't interested in taking, or sorry, yeah, half are not interested in taking exclusive content. So, and some will only cover exclusive content. So, 1 in 3 journalists prefer the exclusive. 46% are more likely to open an email if exclusive appears in the subject line. So, if you are able to offer an exclusive on your content, mentioning that in your subject line can improve your open rates. So let's talk about how to write a winning pitch. After the strategy is complete, the DPR will begin pitching the campaign. So that you, the DPR professional, with the goal to secure the first placement or exclusive within 1 to 15 business days. So you're hoping to get your first win within the first couple of weeks. Syndication usually occurs around 2 weeks. So once you get that first big win, and this is one of the reasons why we're going to go after big publications first, right? Is because if you get a big publication, offer them an exclusive, the opportunity for that to get syndicated is that much higher. So start your first couple rounds of outreach focusing on bigger publications that have syndication opportunity. Then after you've expended those opportunities, then shift to lower, to smaller regional or niche journalists because that syndication can help you boost your numbers really fast. So how can your pitch secure top tier placements? Again, the most compelling facts and statistics are important to share right up front. Providing links to the content that you're sharing. One of the biggest misses I see in link building is when people don't link to the page that they're referring to. You want to make this easy for these journalists to tap into and to have it get in front of them. Again, how to choose the most compelling statistics and headlines to share. Again, is something truly surprising? Or so does it dispel a commonly held belief? Or is this already widely assumed? If something's already well known by the public, hey, this confirms that no, like that's not going to help. You want something that is going to have a little bit of shock value or dispel a commonly held belief. Am I supporting each finding with hard data from the campaign? Again, journalists will sniff out garbage research and garbage data. So make sure you've got something really good behind it. Am I leveraging any trending news angles or tying this into a timely topic? Again, if you can find something that is currently in the news that is being discussed that people are finding, that's going to boost the attractiveness of your piece. And if applicable, am I leveraging pairs of stats that either juxtapose or support one another? And am I forming a story for the writer through my statistics? Again, that's like one of the things that, like, getting good data in your survey is really important. How you're going to interpret that data is just as important as the data itself. You need to be able to tell a story with that data, with those statistics, because that's what's going to make the writer's job easy. That's what's going to make them want to work with you and cover your story is that that this stuff tells a story in and of itself. So here's a good example of a outreach that we use to land some amazing coverage. This campaign, I think we landed over 100 placements for our client. First of all, we connected. Hey, hope you're having a great week. I recently read your piece about how you people are teaming up to buy a home with friends just to own something, right? So she covers topics about housing and financial topics. And this piece was about renter realities and hidden costs. So talking about the expenses that people are looking at to stay housed and things like that. So we then shared, hey, in our recent survey of 1,000 people, we found that 52% of people stayed in a romantic relationship longer than they wanted to because they couldn't afford to move out. So we hit her with what we thought was the most interesting topic. There's an emotional poll here, and we included a link back to the study, and then we provided additional takeaways that could help her tell different kinds of stories. We kept it to the point, made the key takeaways kind of the main thing that you're looking at here. Again, provided the link again, and then tried to build that connection there. So this is a really good outreach email that checks all those boxes. Once you sent your outreach, you're going to want to track to see where you're getting pickups. There's a few different tools that you can use that can track media mentions and pickups for your brand. I will say this, in other kinds of link building, you often get feedback from webmasters like, hey, your link is live. Hey, this is live now. Journalists, I have seen tend to do that a little bit less. They are really busy and they're just going to write the story, get it up live, and sometimes they don't tell you. So having tools to track links or mentions is helpful. You can use tools like Muckrack or BuzzSumo to track things. Even just Ahrefs. I love just jumping in Ahrefs, checking my recently earned links, and then seeing if any of those are pointing to my study or look like they're from a news story that sprang from my study. And so that's a good way to do it too. Engage with the journalists. Don't just reach out to them when you need them to write a story for you, but then also promote their content. One of our digital PR specialists, Devin, does a really good job of this. He recently got a really nice placement from a journalist, and then he shared that out on his social media after and said like, hey, check out this new article from so and so. It's really good stuff. That's a great way of like helping the journalist, getting them more reach and promoting them and the work that they do. So really good stuff there. Again, leverage social media, share those placements there. And then internal linking. I get the question all the time. Okay, cool. I'm getting these links to my digital PR magnet, but how is that helping my main pages on my site? How's it helping my money pages? Number one, these placements are going to lift the overall authority of your brand and of your website. But you can funnel that through things like internal linking. You can build out a series of linkable content pieces for different link building strategies and then internally link that to your main pages. And that will help to funnel that authority to those pages. So make sure that you're using internal linking from your piece to the other pages on your site that you're trying to influence. At the end of the day, is this stuff all worth it? I mean, this is a lot of work, right? You're ideating, you're creating a survey, you're putting that survey out there, getting the data back, interpreting the data, writing a content piece, creating charts and graphs, outreaching. The answer is absolutely yes. This is a client that we worked with for 2 years now, doing link building and digital PR. One of their main product pages, we were able to help them 4x the traffic to it. Through our efforts. Site-wide, we were able to help them add an additional 300,000 visitors per month to their site from 900,000 to 1.2 million visitors. So absolutely, it's worth it. These off-page signals are so powerful, especially in a world now where so much is like just AI and like just not real human interaction. This is what's providing Google and LLMs those real human factors in their algorithm to understand what people are paying attention to and what people trust. If you do want a free digital PR starter kit, you can scan the QR code here, and I will send you 5 free topics that you can use for digital PR for your brand, as well as a link gap analysis. And then we'll jump on a 30-minute call, free consultation. We'll just walk through everything, answer any questions that you might have about it. So I'll leave this up here for one more minute, and then let's dive into the Q&A and the workshop section here, because I'm sure you all had some awesome questions. Boom. All right. So Jewel had some good questions earlier. She was wanting to know about how to find email contacts. I kind of provided some examples earlier, so there's some tools that will do that for you. You can use your muckracks, your prowlies, those kinds of things. Um, I love, and I do this as a in my sales efforts too. Like my background before I created a company and ran a company, I was a sales guy, and I love using Hunter.io to reverse engineer email addresses and things like that. So if you ever want to try that out, just I think they have like a free trial or like a free setting that you can use. But basically, again, you're just going to put in the organization that you want to get the email address format from, and it'll tell you like, yeah, it's first dot last or it's first initial last name. It'll fill you in on that, and then you can just try it out with the name of the journalist that you're trying to get. Um, let's go to the next one here. There was a one in the Q&A specifically. Let me make sure I get that one. Q&A question. How do you measure ROI? That's a great question, Mark. So ROI when it comes to SEO and link building and off-page SEO especially is hard, right? Because you're gonna want to try to attribute every dollar to a certain effort. I always have to kind of help my clients understand that SEO is a bit of a holistic process. You can't win with just one part. If you're just doing link building, but your technical SEO and your content aren't good, your link building's not going to matter. If you have really good on-page SEO, but no off-page presence, you're probably not going to have the juice that you need to consistently rank for competitive keywords. So it really is, you need to have a well-rounded SEO approach. And then from there, how are you going to be able to tell ROI? Number one is you need to have really good tracking. So if you're in e-commerce, that's the easiest way, right? Have your Google Analytics set up, make sure you're tracking conversions from your different channels, and then you can see how you can have your what am I trying to say here? Oh yeah, sorry. So yeah, you can then track according to what channel those are coming from. So look for organic search. If you are a company that's more focused on lead gen, like say you're a law firm or a recruiting company, make sure you're asking where people found you, or in your lead gen forms, have them mark what channel they're finding you from. So that way you can attribute what you're doing back to the efforts, and then whatever dollar amount you get from the closed deal, you can then see where that's coming from. So yeah, when it comes to tracking ROI, like it's hard to say this backlink got me X ROI, but instead you're going to look at your SEO efforts as a whole, understanding that to have a successful SEO program, you need to have those three pillars of SEO in place: your on-page and technical, your content, and your off-page. That was a great question. Um, I answered it live. Okay, let's go back to the chat here. Miha, glad that you were inspired. Is there still a way to get ROI if no one picks up your story? That's a good question, Jewel. It does. There are failures in digital PR. Not every campaign goes exactly how you thought it was, and sometimes you find yourself kind of, beating a dead horse and not being able to get to what you wanted. The cool thing about the process that we talked about here is that it is a repeatable, sustainable process. I'll say probably out of the campaigns that we do, 9 out of 10 end up being good and working and getting coverage and getting what we're looking for. Every once in a while, a campaign falls flat. But if you're running multiple campaigns and doing things right and running good, like you're gonna get a winner, more often than not, and get some good coverage and good placements that are gonna help your brand. So I would say if you absolutely get no coverage, it might not be great, but keep in mind some stuff happens over time. We just got a DR90 backlink. Like Taylor just sent it to me yesterday for an article for a study that we did for our own website like 7 or 8 months ago. We haven't been pitching it for the last 6 months. And a DR90 website picked it up because the article that they were writing, they just so happened to find a piece of data that we had found in our study, and they used in their article included a link back to it. So sometimes there's going to be some passive and residual opportunities that come up over the long term because you have a really good piece of content with really good data behind it. So yeah, hopefully that was helpful there. Um, I guess any questions in the chat or in the Q&A. If there's a website that you want me to look at, feel free to throw it into the chat, and I'd be happy to ideate some topics for you guys for your website. If you want to throw your domain in there, I can kind of show you guys my chat GPT uh, process that I built out and plug your sites in there. So feel free to throw that in there if you want to see it. Otherwise, I'll continue to kind of pull up some more campaign examples, and I can probably show you something cool here. Hang on a second. Boom. Oh, I got to share my screen first so you guys can see my screen share. All right. Cool. Yeah, let's do this. So yeah, to kind of show you that recent piece that we did. So resolve, study, uh, what search. Okay. Second. I'm kind of I'm like I said, I'm working on my old laptop, so all of my stuff isn't saved, which is really annoying. Okay. So yeah, here's the survey that we created, what people want from search and how that's changing, right? So we surveyed 1,000 people to ask them how they're using Google, how they're using AI. And we found some really interesting data points, right? 3 in 5 users abandon top search results that don't answer their questions quickly. 61% of Gen Z are using generative AI for search-related tasks. 41% use generative AI tools. 74% trust content from trusted sites or experts. Another cool one was that what is it? Half of searchers, I think it was. Yeah, 45% of searchers second guess a result if it feels like it's AI generated, right? So that's a pretty interesting one right there. So yeah, we had this piece created. We did some really good research, got some awesome data and statistics, some awesome charts and things like that. Had an interactive map. Again, like having those interactive maps is really cool, and it gives you a local angle that you can tap into and write about. And with this, we were then able to get some of those placements. And then the website that picked it up, let me see, here it goes. So ClickUp is a DR90 website, as you can see right here. And they wrote an article about the 13 best AI tools for generative engine optimization. And here they go right here. Fact check. Unlike traditional SEO, 41% of users now turn to ChatGPT. Where did they get that data from? They got it because we ran a survey. So again, super cool example of how that can help. And then Taylor, great answer there as well. Even without a journalist or publisher covering your content, your campaign still helps to build brand authority and can be repurposed across social media, blog posts, emails, sales content, etc. So yeah, it can really be good for that thought process. Mark Radke, yes, I can send you a recording or slides. Just shoot me. I'll probably shoot everyone a follow-up email with the slide deck. But if I don't, shoot me an email at michael@growresolve.com, and I'm happy to get you guys that. All right, let me make sure there's no other questions here, unless you guys just want me to keep spitballing stuff. Otherwise, I hope you guys all got what you were hoping for. Any other questions before we jump off today? If not, I'll throw the QR code up there one more time if you guys want to take advantage of the offer for that free digital PR starter kit. And otherwise, thank you guys so much for joining Resolve Office Hours today. Like I said, it's been, oh wait, Q in the Q&A. Let me see. Great session. Oh, you're welcome, Mark. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Thank you all so much for checking this out. We'll try to do another one next month. Hopefully have a fun guest on there and get you guys some fresh perspectives and ideas when it comes to digital PR, link building, and SEO. So thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your day and see you soon. You bet, Bryson. Thanks. Marilyn, thanks. Mihai, always welcome as usual. All right. Goodbye, everybody. Have a great day. You bet, Nina.